10 minutes. Maybe that's the reason when we say Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. That's what the Vilna Gaon says. The learning of Torah is equal to everything, because every second that you learn, every word that you say is another mitzvah. Okay, we are on 16b. We were trying to figure out what was the other of the 18 decrees that the rabbis made in the attic of Reb Hanania. So we started yesterday on 16b2. We said the Idach Mahi. What is on the right side? What is another one of those enactments? So Titnan, we learned in the Mishnah, Hamaniach Kelim Tachat Tzinur. If someone places utensils under a pipe, and we explained when you make a mikveh has to be made from water that's naturally collected in the ground. You can't go ahead and take water in buckets and pour it into the ground. That's called mayim shuvim. That's called drawn water. We said if you take around 36 ounces of drawn water and you pour it into a mikveh within its first critical mass of 40 sa'ah, when you make a mikveh, it has to reach, let's say, a certain level of volume of water. So if you have 3 lugim of drawn water within the first 40 sa'ah, that will invalidate the mikveh. Once you made the mikveh kosher, that means it was naturally collected 40 sa'ah, then you could throw in more water into it. But you could pour water into it. But the first initial 40 sa'ah, you cannot pour water into it. If you pour an amount of 3 lugim, that will invalidate the mikveh. Is that clear? So now we're trying to understand. David, is that clear? And we're so happy that David came back yesterday. We welcomed him back. I don't know if we gave him a proper welcome back. We'll give him another welcome back. That's 2 days in a row. He's on a good streak, and Ralph is waving his hand, saying hello to David. He said he misses you. Okay, so the Gemara says, you placed utensil, a bucket, under the pipe, and the pipe was attached to the building, to the house, and water was running down the pipe. And we explained yesterday that pipe was not considered a utensil, that this wasn't a thing that the water collected in the pipe that was holding the water, and we explained that when you attach the pipe to the building, the pipe was closed, was not hollow, was closed on both ends, and therefore it became part of the ground. And then you cut chisel out, and you made a hole on both ends. We said that's not called a utensil; it's attached to the ground. And but you put a bucket on the bottom of the pipe, so the water is filling into the bucket. So you would say, Rabbi, that should be considered mayim shuvim. That's drawn water. So what's the issue here? So the Gemara says like this. The Mishnah says, Echad Ditnan. If someone puts utensils under a pipe, to collect the rainwater, whether it was a large bucket, even if it's a small bucket, you might have thought that if it's a small bucket, that's not called significant. It's not called a significant utensil to be a problem. It is a problem. It would invalidate the mikveh because you caught the water. It's called drawn water, and that will invalidate the mikveh. However, and the Gemara says, Mishnah says, Echad hamaniach ve'echad hashacheach. Whether you put it there intentionally to catch the water, or echad hashech, you forgot it there. The Gemara will explain what this means momentarily. Or if you forgot it there, that would also be considered water that was drawn, even though you didn't intend. You had forgotten about that you had put the bucket there. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Rabbi.
So the Gemara says, Divrei Beis Shammai. So Beis Shammai makes a statement. And the statement of Beis Shammai is that if you put this bucket there underneath the pipe to catch the water, that will make it a problem. It's called drawn water. Whether you put it there, you put it there intentionally, or you forgot. We'll see more clarity soon about it. I want to welcome Emmanuel and welcome back Emmanuel. So the Gemara says, however, Beis Hillel mitaharim b'shocheach. Beit Hillel says that to be classified as drawn water, it has to have intent. And if you place this bucket and you forgot about that you placed the bucket there, and again, we're going to see what are the details of this law, that will not be considered drawn water. We're going to see the Gemara is going to talk about the fact, let's say you put the bucket there, you put the bucket underneath the pipe, you saw it was cloudy. And then so you put it there because you wanted it to catch the rain. But then the clouds went away. And the result is the clouds went away. You forgot about that. You put the bucket there because you're not expecting to have water come down there because the clouds went away, dissipated. And then subsequently the clouds came back and it filled up the bucket. But you already, but of course the clouds left, you already it wasn't going to be filled up, and you forgot about it. It's not that you remembered that you still wanted it to be there. You forgot about it. So that will be the case that they're going to be the argument between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. So that's what the Gemara is going to say. Right. It's part of the first 40 sa. And now the question is, you poured this water within the first 40 sa. And if it's classified as drawn water, it will invalidate the mikveh. But now the question is, how do we classify this water that it was the water that was forgotten, that you had forgotten that you had placed the bucket there? And what is the scenario that you're forgetting would be considered might make a difference or not? So the Gemara says like this. Amar Rameya says, Nimnu v'rabu Beit Shammai Beit Hillel. They made a vote, and this is the case. We're on 16b3 that Beit Shammai outnumbered Beit Hillel, and the law followed, and they agreed. They made a gzeira, in his opinion, that they made the gzeira that it would invalidate the mikveh. Beit Shammai, generally the more stronger, stricter opinion, and he says this water would invalidate the mikveh, and that was the consensus, the vote. And now comes the Gemara, and the Gemara explains like this: Umode Beit Shammai b'shechech b'chotzer. Beit Shammai would admit if you forgot it in the courtyard, meaning to say the bucket was not placed under the pipe, where it's recognized that you intended to put it there to catch the water. Rather, you place the bucket open. You could put a bucket to catch something, or you could put a bucket turn upside down that it won't catch anything. You put it in a way, it was in the courtyard, and you went ahead and then you forgot about the fact that you put the bucket there. And we'll have to see more details of the case, but the Gemara is saying there's a difference between forgetting in the courtyard when it's not under a pipe, or forgetting it under a pipe. So that Beit Shammai says that since the only time we consider the water drawn water is when you forgot it under the pipe, because when you forget it under a pipe, it's very clear that you wanted the water to be collected in the bucket because it was under the pipe. But when you forgot it in a courtyard, your actions, even though it was placed in a way to catch the water, but the act itself in a courtyard doesn't show that it's for the purpose of catching water. Maybe sometimes you put the bucket this way, sometimes put the bucket that way. So if you forgot that you placed it there to collect water, and then it subsequently collected water, that's not called drawn water. That's not enough of intent to catch water when you had forgotten about it. When you had forgotten about it, and the original act is not an act where it's clear. The original act it doesn't show that it was done for the purpose of collecting water because you placed it in the courtyard. Now, The Gemara says, Rabbi Yossi says, I disagree with Rav Meir. Rav Meir said that they made a vote, and Rabbi Shammai was the majority opinion, and Beit Hillel, but I disagree. Adayim machloket mekoma. The mekoma medet. The argument still remains that by this case of which the Gemara is going to say, you put the bucket under the pipe, and when you put it there when the clouds were there, and then subsequently the clouds went away, and then you forgot, and then it filled up. Would Beit Hillel agree to Beit Shammai that since originally you placed it under the pipe, that's considered enough of a problem or not? I disagree that the vote was like Beit Shammai, and then we also said whenever they voted like Beit Shammai, Beit Hillel subsequently agreed and changed their position. No, I don't agree. This is one of the 18, and the Gemara is going to ask, according to this opinion, if this is not one of the 18, so where is the other one that we're missing to make up the 18? So the Gemara says, Amar Ramashasha. Ramashasha says, the Beirav only, the yeshiva of Rav explains what's going on, what's the case of the argument. You placed it there when it was very cloudy. That means you intended that it should catch the water. If that's the case, and you placed it there when it was very cloudy, and you went out to do work and you forgot it. You forgot that you placed it there. You got busy in your work. I totally forgot that I placed the bucket there. But that type of forgetting is not enough to say it's not called wrong, that it's willingly done. You had placed it to catch under the pipe. Nothing, there was clouds there before, and it did rain. You forgot. That's not considered enough that Beit Hillel will say it's not that it's not considered drawn water. That's still considered drawn water. Tameim. Since you originally intended to catch the water, so the fact that you forgot that you placed the bucket there, that's still considered drawn water. However, if it was Bishat Piza'avim, if you put the bucket there under the pipe when there was no clouds, then Divrei HaKol Toharim. Everybody would agree that, and then you forgot that you placed it there, then everybody would agree that you will not be considered drawn water. The whole argument is when you placed it there when there was clouds, and then the clouds went away, and then you forgot about it, and then it went, and then the and then the clouds came back. So Mar Sava, Beit Hillel holds, but la machshavto. Your first intention, I placed it there to catch the water under the pipe, but I placed it there when there was clouds, but then the clouds went away. So now there's no more clouds anymore, and I forgot about it. So that since the clouds, something actually happened, that the clouds came, that changes the situation. It's like it's a new story. It's like it's no there anymore. I'm not attending, and I forgot about it. So so therefore the clouds moving away is like my placing there is not significant, and I forgot about it. Now, if I remembered and I still wanted it, but if I forgot about it, so that's enough to say that it's not called. We're not going to consider.
What was your intention of putting it under the pipe in the first place?
In the first, I wanted to collect the water
from the pipe. From the pipe.
From the pipe, right?
Okay.
I wanted to collect the water from the pipe, but then once the clouds went away, so it's like my first action that I intend to collect. It's not happening, and I forgot about it. So he holds that since I forgot about it when it's collected, and the clouds left, so it's not considered that it was collected with my intention. Well, Marsava Beit Shammai holds lo bot l'machshavto. The fact, like Ralph was saying, I originally put it there to collect the water. The fact that the clouds went away and I forgot about it, but it's still, my first intention is still there, and therefore it will be a problem for the mikveh. So the Gemara, that's what the Gemara wants to say. The Gemara is more and more. Rabbi Yossi the Amad, the Gemara says, Rabbi Yossi says, that the argument remains intact, basiluhu. So if it's not clear that they made that this is one of the 18 because you hold that they're still arguing, so you don't have 18, you only have 17. What's number 18? So the Gemara is going to say what number? There were 18 gezerot, 18 decrees. So in the attic. So the Gemara is now saying, if you hold that this is one of the decrees, like Beis Shammai, that it would invalidate the mikvah, this type of bucket collecting of water, that's one of the, then we got 18 on the deal, or whatever. It's one of the 18. But if you hold it's not one of the decrees, on that day in the attic, they made 18 decrees, 18 laws in that day. Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel. So if you hold this is not one of the decrees, so they were missing one of the 18, the Gemara is now going to say that they're right. They originally they voted like Beis Shammai, and subsequently Beis Hillel agreed. Okay, I have a Brit to go to of a former student of mine. Murray Dayan is going to come in to continue do some learning. Maybe he's going to share. He's going to share a Mishnah, maybe a Masechus Makot. There'll be a little review for some of you. If you remember, we did Masechus Makot a couple of years ago. So a little review would be great. I don't want anyone to miss out on the learning time. So Murray's going to come in. Here comes Murray. Murray, you have a crown on the computer as well. No. Everybody, Ralph wants to say hello. Ronnie, Asaf, Emmanuel, you have a whole group on the computer as well.
Oh, Ralph Patesh. Okay.
How are you?
Whole crew there. Okay, guys, thank you.
Hey, Murray.
I'm not a rabbi, son of rabbi. So I'm honored by Rabbi Freeman asking me to say something, and I'm not prepared. So the best thing to do, I think, is I'll just give you guys a run through of where I am on Daf Yomi. Thank God, Baruch Hashem, I'm up to date now. And maybe, did you study your Makot yet?
We taught Makot.
Okay, good. So it's a little bit of a review. So you guys can correct me. Okay. So I wanted to get back here to the Mishnah. Perek Shalishi, we're up to. Thank you, patience. Okay, Rabbi. This is the perek that starts Elohen Halokin, and these are the people that are subject to Makot. And the second clause says Hatameh Shachal et HaKodesh, right? A Tameh person that eats Hekdesh, Vehaba el HaMikdash, Tameh, and someone who comes into the Mikdash is Tameh. Ve'ochel Chelev Adam, eats blood or the fats, Venotar, Upigul, etc., etc. So the part that I'm up to now is Notar. What's Notar? Notar means leftovers. Leftovers. Like my son-in-law is very machmir about leftovers. He burns them in fire. He doesn't eat them. I'm very lenient about leftovers. I eat the leftovers. The leftovers we're talking about here are obviously the korbanot, because all the korbanot had a time frame that you had to eat them by. Korbanot kalot, you go a day and a half, right? A night, a day, and a night. Some of the korbanot though had to be eaten by morning or burned, like the pasuk says, "Lo tutiru mimenu ad boker," shall not leave it over until morning, like Pesach, for instance. Hanotar mimenu ad boker, and anything left over until morning, ba'esh tisaref, shall be burned in the fire. Okay, so let's see. We have here. So that's somebody. So notar is subject to malkut if somebody leaves over notar past the time frame of the Gemara explains. That of time very quickly in the morning. So you have that remedy where you could burn it. And if you don't burn it, then you're subject to malkut. So, lo totiro meno ad bok. Okay, lo shema ad. Okay. So we have a baraita from Rabbi Yehuda. All right. And the subject here has to be, okay, lo totiro meno ad boker, lo totiro meno ad boker. Baha ketub, liten aseh, achar lo ta'aseh. This is an example where the Torah comes and it gives a positive mitzvah after a negative mitzvah. What's a negative mitzvah? Lo totiru mimenu al boker. And what's the positive mitzvah? Ba'esh tisaref. Shall burn it in fire. You have a negative and you have a positive. Lomar, to teach you, she'en lokin alav, debrei Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda infers or learns from here that there's no malkut for the sin of leftovers, notar, because you have a remedy, and the remedy is burning it. Something I always knew, I'd heard before for many years, that as a rule, every mitzvah in the Torah is repeated. So it's said twice in Torah. Did everybody know that? So if you look at Sefer Devarim, it's a repetition of a lot. In fact, in English, it's called Deuteronomy, the double, because you're repeating a lot of the mitzvot. Many of the positive and the negative mitzvot are repeated in Devarim. I said, okay, I didn't know. I was twice, like once to confirm that it's a mitzvah. Actually, I was in the last Masechet Sanhedrin. Sorry? Every mitzvah. So that may well be. I can't swear to that. But so the reason, but every mitzvah, there has to be, there's two aspects to it, actually, is what I learned in Sanhedrin. So one is hatra'ah and one is onesh. So one statement is a warning not to do a mitzvah, and one states the punishment. So if there's a statement where there's a hatra'ah but there's no punishment, then it's a weaker mitzvah. It doesn't have the same strength, and there's no punishment, and vice versa. So applies to the negative, as Mark said. Thank you. So here we have an example. Okay, Tibrei Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda is learning from here that if you have a hatra'ah safek, shema hatra'ah, that an uncertain warning is still considered a valid warning. And the example that he gives a little earlier, which I'll back up, is if a man makes an oath to eat kikar, a loaf of bread, that day, and he doesn't eat the loaf of bread, is he subject to makut or not? You have to have a warning from somebody, a witness, somebody that's nearby. In all these cases, capital cases are famous. There's no punishment unless somebody is warned, don't do that, because if you do that, you'll get this punishment. So as somebody who makes a shevuah, an oath, how could you give them a valid hatra'ah? Because the hatra'ah has to be right before the act. Like if I'm about to hit Levi, God forbid, and some Mark says, don't hit Levi or you're going to get malkut, and I hit him, I'm subject to malkut. But if nobody says anything, it's a different case. It has to be a short period of time right before. But somebody who makes an oath not to eat a loaf of bread, how could you possibly give them a warning right before the time? Because at any time during the day, for the rest of the day, he's liable to do the mitzvah. There's no fixed time period where he's violated that oath. So the principle that Rabbi Yehuda states is hatra'ah safek lo hatra'ah. So the uncertain, hatra'ah safek is a hatra'ah, is a warning. You could warn somebody, and then even if it's uncertain who he's going to hit, and maybe we'll get to that point. In any way, it's uncertain, it's still valid. And that's why he would be subject to lokin, he'd be subject to malkut. And so to save the person from malkut, the Torah provides the remedy in the case of notar. So lo totiru mimeno ad boker, you shall not leave it over until the morning, because you'll have malkut. But then it says ba'esh tisaref. So by giving you the opportunity to burn it in the fire in the morning, it's giving you the out. Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi and Reish Lakish inferred two different things from the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yochanan dayek hachi. He infers this way. Ta'amad b'haketub ha. The reason why the Torah comes and says ba'esh tisaref, lo b'haketub lokeh. Because if the Torah did not come and give you the remedy of burning it in fire, you'd be subject to malkut. Alma hatra'at safek shema hatra'ah. So he learns from here that an uncertain warning, hatra'at safek shema hatra'ah, is a valid warning. So if you warn somebody in the evening, don't leave over that korban until morning after daylight, or you're subject to malkut, that's a valid warning. Resh Lakish deyakacha. Resh Lakish infers something else. Ta'amad b'haketub ha. The reason why the Torah comes and makes a statement, ba'esh tisaref provides a remedy. Lo b'haketub lokeh. If the Torah did not, you'd be subject to malkut. Same bottom line, but a different reason. Ama lav she'en bo ma'aseh lokin alav. He infers from here that a lo ta'aseh, she'en bo ma'aseh, that doesn't have an action involved, lokin alav, is still subject to makut. So there are certain prohibitions, most of them, lashes, makut lashes. So there are, most lavin involve actions, right? Striking, hitting, cursing, eating something you shouldn't eat. But certain lavin only involve speech, actually. So cursing would be in the category of speech. By not doing something, in certain cases, it's a lav, it's a lo ta'aseh, but it's a passive one. So he's learning from here, because leaving over a korban overnight and making it notar is a passive. There's no action involved. You're leaving the meat. So he learns, Resh Lakish, that a passive lav is still subject to malkut. So they both agree, they both with Rabbi Yehuda, that it would be malkut if you did not burn it in fire, but for different reasons. So Resh Lakish nami hacha, we said about it. So Resh Lakish nami hacha badai hatrat safek, doesn't he agree also that it's an invalid warning? So why does he not learn the same as well as Rabbi Yochanan? Sabar la idach, because he learns he has another opinion from another Abraita. Tana Rabbi Yehuda, Titania, Hikaze v'chazar, Hikaze, person who strikes one man and then he strikes another. Kilel zeh, and one of them is his father. Kilel zeh v'chazar v'kilel zeh, where he curses one man and he curses his father. Hikashinehem bebatachat, he curses the two of them immediately, one after the other. O kilel shinehem bebatachat, where he curses the two of them, one after another. Hayab is liable for capital punishment, because one of the actions that he did was cursing his father or hitting his father. That's Hayab Mita. Of course, if he has a warning. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, B'batachat Hayab. So Rabbi Yehuda says, if he did it immediately, one after the other, he's liable for capital punishment. But if one strike was after the other, or separated by a certain amount of time, or one curse was separated by a certain amount of time, even though one was his father, he's not liable to capital punishment. Why? The reason is because there could not have been a hatra avadai, a certain warning. It could only have been a hatra safek, right? If somebody raises his hand to hit, his father's there or one's there, you don't know who he's going to hit. So you can't give him a warning, don't hit your father, you'll be subject to capital punishment. Right. So he be patur. So that statement of Rabbi Yehuda, so Resh Lakish holds that opinion. So he doesn't agree about the safek hatra'ah, the uncertain warning. But Rabbi Yochanan nami hu badai lav she'en bo ma'asehu. And what about Rabbi Yochanan, who said the reason that there's makut, who did not give the same reason as Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish gave the reason of a passive, an active as opposed to a passive lav. So he says, Husa barale keha. Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Let's see. Yochanan habedadela she'en bo ma'aseh husa baru kedamar Rabbi Idi barabin, Amar Rabbi Amram, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda Umer. Another statement from Rabbi Yehuda. Mishum Rabbi Yosei Galili, Kol lo ta'aseh Shabbat Torah, lav. Okay, every negative commandment in the Torah, lav sheyesh bo ma'aseh lokim, a prohibition that involves an action is subject to malkut. Lav she'en bo ma'aseh en lokina lav, a prohibition that does not involve an action, there's no malkut. And then he gives three exceptions. Chutz min nishpa umimar mekalel chabero b'shem. Prohibition meaning elo ta'aseh. So we have another principle that we touched upon here, right? And Baruch Adonai L'olam, Amen v'Amen. So I think it's a good place to stop here, because it gets a little bit more involved. So, excuse me, I wasn't super prepared. Yeah, I don't think so. I think you want to hear him back. Substitute teacher is retiring for the mornings. Hope I gave you just a little refresher. I hope it sounds familiar about Makot. Thank you for always for your time, and have a fabulous day. Asachar haba.
Nice seeing you, Murray.
Great to see you, Ralph.
Hey, Ralph.
Glad you're zooming in.
Hey,
care.
hi, Miguel. How are you?
Good. How you doing? We miss you.
Yeah, I miss you guys too. Be good.
Good.